It's May 31st, 2023. There's this, I watched this Matrix, I think Resurrection, Resurrections. It came out in 2021. At the end, it says it's supported by the Tuchir. Again, I don't speak Dutch or Deutsch. And then it's supported by Median Board, Berlin Brandenburg, with the participation of the Canadian Film or Video Production Service Tax Credits. Oh, so Victoria Day was involved. With the participation of the province of British Columbia Production Service Tax Credits. This film benefited from the French tax rebate for international productions. It quotes Academic Animals, SRO, China Star Entertainment Group. It has a weird looking cue in the word quote from Americana by Don DeLillo, used with permission. Cameras provided by Red Digital Cinema. Camera equipment by Panvision. I took a photo of it, for which I will put so it's easily more readable. I sat through the production, and then it says at the end, Epic Games Inc. and its Unreal Engine, which has relevance here. With Dolby, IMAX, and Motion Picture Association, which has a number of 532, I think that's 96. Then it has something, jurisdiction of AFI, CIO, CIC. I have no idea what these things are. They don't, my level of human, they don't teach these things, yet they put them out there. But I watched it, and here's where it gets really tricky. There's EIEIO, and then in this particular conjecture, they reference IO City. I'm having a really hard time with humans. I just, at several different levels with this stuff. Um, there are really, for me personally, there's no pertinent. I mean, this is like a really tricky storyline. I won't make comment on it because it's like this epic game fantasy level that doesn't really, I mean, it exists to someone who paid to have this put out there. But here's another thing. I went to this antique car show yesterday. It was a car show. I mean, they had all different cars. They had Corvettes there. I know that's important to whatever. They had a Chevelle. They had, I mean, like, these are important in my local area. They had Mustangs. They even had some kind, they had a Beetle was there. There were some, again, like, I'm not an enthusiast, but I know Judy was, and Judy and her husband were, I know in my local area, local security, it was very important. The classic car and their artistry of the mechanics when it was actually mechanical before it turned technological. And I walked through the show. I watched my father, who, again, he goes to support the local people who like that sort of thing, even though it's not his sort of thing. But he shows up for the locals, as do I. And as far as car mechanics go, like really, it's not my thing. At the end of the show, um, his friend Joe, that's like a late in life friend, um, mentioned, he's like, "You're not gonna find a man here." I go, "Right, yeah, no, I get that. That's not why I came." I know why I showed up, but and it was for Judith, um, and whatever she did during her life and how horrific her end of life was. Um, but she was one day off in August from making the time portal, from where Alexander, myself, and whoever else fits into some Brady basket. Um, so that's important. Um, so like where something like this film does not hit home for me at all. It's almost, it's feudal, it seems. It's someone else's family feud. I don't know who. I don't know if they're dragging the the part of the government that celebrates Memorial Days instead of Victory Days and Victoria Days. We have Memorial Day. I know that that's different as well as part of the us. Um, so I'm going to pause this for a minute because what is significant is this piece of Star Trek Insurrection. Um, so I'm going to pause this for 1 second. Now, this Insurrection's from 1998. Um, I see the scenage or the geographical cinematography. I know that it's not inside of the USA, necessarily for this movie. Piece of conjecture. I did hear originally they used that word allora. I heard that a lot. And that there's this particular scene that is, of utmost importance because it actually has relevance and significance in my life. Not sure how it happens. Doesn't happen like the Matrix says, um, from wherever I am. Um, when it does happen, it's on someone's schedule. Somebody took that market making capability away, and yet I still have ancestry and importance here in this area. And I don't know how they're using this level of equipment and capability. I've known it exist since I was little. I just, again, somewhere between how does one protect oneself and get around these stupid family feudal storylines and plot holes that they just keep profiting off of at criminal enterprise that does not always work with the local government that needs to keep secure certain things for the benefit of the people. Again, last night there was some tempers. They were very good. There was no fist fights when I was there because I was at a car show. I know they're a different level of adrenaline and testosterone than I'm used to. I get it. Um, I did see some deeply wounded anger bubbling to the top, but they controlled their aggressions, which I greatly appreciate. We just wasn't looking for trouble, just was looking to do the shepherd flock thing and be there in memorial of Judy. And so I walked the lengths, but they did start idling their engines in a parking lot. And again, it's just this carcinogenic plume of breathing in these fumes. It was not good when I first arrived and it was brought up. Judy being the only car enthusiast I had ever met, or her and Bob. And not that she was really an enthusiast, it was really more Bob. But it became her thing when they started dating. Um, and it was not the kind of air that I like to be around.
The vessel is clearly Federation in origin, Captain.
Just a few loose ends to tie up.
We're not interested in such things.
I am.
I think it will be wiser.
I'm going with you.
Now I see the lake and the mountains. This, for me, geographically, was an important. It grabs my attention. So thank you for whoever decided that this was the scene that this should revolve around. Also, this reminds me very much of like the Dolomiti. I actually physically got to go visit the Dolomite once very early, which was nice. You know, he holds something up, and then all of a sudden, this passageway, it's again, I think the year was somewhere right before Trump's election into the White House. Something like this went on. Um, and that's where this like overcast matrix thing is a real problem for me. Um, the first one I watched it, I realized that they cast Neo as Keanu Reeves. Again, I don't know who made that choice. I don't know what that was symbolic of. I don't know what if this was a treaty originally and then something's gone off, because now when the original came out till now, the storyline for my own real life has just been so far off. But I know that when one of these and I mentioned this before, I don't have human words for it. I don't have English words. I don't have Spanish words. I don't have French words. I don't have Italian words. I don't have German words to describe these things at the moment. I don't have Latin words. But it's a construct of something like that opened. And it looked the Patchogue house, not the Maple one, but the one at 69 on the corner of Roe and Monroe. Whatever that was, this scene took place there, where it was like a dubbed version of the real physical location, and we were moved into that alternate space, which I gave a special like number 2, just so I have like a reality way of speaking between a parallel dimension or a parallel whatever. And that's where it was lifted into. So again, like I see these movies making the attempts to have the conversation. I know how to conversate around what really took place, what really transpired, and what the films are trying to get at. Again, I passed my ethical and my compliance test on that. Should somebody from the Department of like Never Happened ever inquisite, but um, I know it happened. And then I know I returned back to here. And whatever this is that I keep waking up in is what's been reanalyzed or reanalyzed and reprogrammed into now. Like in here, they even speak of in like they age reverse backwards in their home planet, but in this other, and somebody's trying to steal it. I see how they're going with those arguments and that plot, but on an individualized clock system, for which I have. Um, it's almost like it's something in the soft and connective tissue. It feels like at the moment it's just not metabolizing correctly, and it's not um, mechanically, body mechanics is just in kinesthesiology, it's just not where it used to be. I don't know if it's soft tissue, like it's something in the soft tissue. I don't know if it's blood related soft tissue. I don't know if it's connective tissue. I don't know if it's sarcopenia. I'm not quite sure. And then there's this addition of adipose, which only poses a problem if it's scripted in to misbehave. But I don't know how to get to that level of I'm being affected. And I don't know who's at the controls right now. But in my governmental jurisdiction and in the linen that's being widely accepted over my entire lifespan of what management looks like or what the government looks like here, while this is going on, I've been affected and I've been harmed, and it's still going on, and it's what I call world of hurt now, because I don't even know if the other ancestors are aware that something like this actually exists. It's not just a movie portrayal. There are real threads of reality into it, and there are certain clock features. I mean, like if you have to, at what point do you have to hierarchy your own human population? Well, there's protein markers, and then there's clock service, and it's used for class purposes at caste and class. Again, I know so many people are trying to get away from that system. They're trying to build something different, some kind of utopian system, which I can appreciate their efforts, and I'm not trying to take that away from them. But there's other serious stuff that a rare number needs to get to. And quite frankly, it feels like that section of humanity that doesn't get it and falls into something other category has been having this family feud and this like creativity, like spark of like whatever that they think they built some equity in, that's just going to take them to their demise at this point. And then that just leads to, well, then they're just trying to avoid prosecution. I don't really know how to traverse this. I'm only one. I know who I am and I know how I fall in the rare specialty system. I just don't know where my superhero, like, I hear Thunderbirds say blind faith. I got that. I've always had that. But, like, where do I actually benefit from it? Because I feel like somebody's taking my superpower and my super story and my super capability, and they're enhancing their lesser born just because they got to some group that became more powerful or something along those lines.
is a holographic projection.
So again, I'm listening to their words. Will I remember them? Probably not, because the data doesn't transfer. I don't know why, between the section of what my airspace is at the moment and then where I journey through. Like, again, I don't know if it's sequential in, or if there are anomalies and then like a dissection almost of it. It's frightening when you get into the world of like the Doctor Strange Marvel superhero, like with patterns and things. But again, I know he was not there and he was not there. I know who arrived. I know what I called him. Um, and I know one of the locals who drove me in the Mini Cooper to the location. Um, I know how he referenced him, saying it was his friend Eric. Um, and then I know when I walked through, however the unexplainable works, and got to wherever I was, that then looked like the Patchogue house, because we had left the Patchogue house, and that gets confusing. But again, I get how just walking through, um, but whatever. Here we are.
Incomplete, I might add.
What you're seeing is a computer-driven image created by photons and force fields.
I know what a hologram is, Captain. The question is, why would anyone want to create one of our village?
Data, if you were following the children and discovered this ship,
It is conceivable I was shot to protect the secret of its existence.
why would they duplicate this village except to deceive the Baku?
Deceive us.
To move you off this planet. You go to sleep one night in the village, wake up the next morning on this flying holodeck, transported en masse.
And just for Alexander and my record, the day that I gave birth to him, the delivery doctor, who also, again, I didn't check his credentials or his birth certificate, but he said it was his birthday as well, that he shared the same birthday as Alexander and myself, whoever he was, although he referred to himself as Nicholas. And that stands on its own. He asked me right before he left, and then gave some weird glance to Jason 1976. He asked me if I had figured out the holiday schedule yet, for which, like, I really just didn't want him to leave. I didn't want to be left alone. I wanted him to stay. I wanted Jason to leave, but that's not what happened. I didn't get my way. And then he left, and I never saw him. Not that I could recognize him, but those little clues of whoever he was asking if I had the holiday schedule. And then someone arrived. We were invited to a Halloween party. That's where Alexander was in this. And then there's a photo somewhere. I just don't know in whose digital library. He referred to himself there as Nico, N-I-C-O. And he was the one who asked me, does this mean it's polygamy? For which I didn't have an answer. Because again, I didn't ask for Jason 1976. I did not ever want that. I mean, it's a problem at ABO and at RH on so many levels, for which somebody forced me into this, whatever. And as the years stretch out, it's so much more apparent of just how many levels of humanity were involved in order to even accomplish that meeting and taking my life completely offline from where I began and where I was destined and where I wanted to go. And I don't know who's involved in it, but I see it everywhere I look. on their conjecture that they pump into under some creativity guise or artwork, digital enhanced artwork guise into the New York area.
In a few days, you're relocated on a similar planet without ever realizing.
Why would the Federation or the Sona wish to move to Baku?
I don't know.
Now, when I was in this whatever space that looked, it was slightly different than where I normally spent the day. I knew like the center island console was taken out. Again, like I knew the master manipulation of the space, but I knew that I was there, and again, cognitively, I was aware. I didn't have to mention it, and they didn't. I don't think that, like, I don't know if they studied the other model of where I awoke each day. So again, but I know the one person that I was speaking to directly. Um, so the one who never smiles, but there he was. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxies broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. So this level of fighting did not go on in that sacred space or that protected airspace or that restricted airspace. When I was returned to whatever the space was then called, I mean, I have the terrestrial address of it here on terra firma, which was the 69 West Row. When I got back to that physical dimensional space, it was some weirdness between Louis, Linda, and Anthony. And then there was a whole lot of, like, I was taking steps to get myself back onto a discipline that was needed for some compliance issue that was addressed in the protected airspace, for which I was then made whole here. But then I got attacked through, I don't know what to call it. I call it a divine crime because it's in this unexplainable field of science that it happened. It was really painful. It's made my journey here more difficult, not just on paper, but in actuality, and almost trying to damage my reputation then with the help of my father and Tia Fria, might I add, which is even more sick and disgusting. But here we are at humanity. I don't really have many nice things to say.